I didn't film this one, but another little breakfast. Delicious. I may have went just a little bit overboard here, but that looks amazing. Hello friends, family, total strangers. Today's video is my questions and answers, my AT, Appalachian Trail questions and answers. So this is going to be a long video, so there was a lot of questions, so let's just jump right into it. Question number one is from B. Thompson. Hello, Judy. Which was worse, the dryness on the PCT or the dampness on the AT, i.e. rain river crossings? Definitely the dampness on the AT, and it wasn't so much the rain in the river crossings, although because I had rain on the PCT as well, which was cold and miserable because I started in March. It was the humidity on the AT was terrible. The heat and humidity were awful. So I would definitely go with the humidity of the AT was worse. I'm used to the dry, like it's fine, and my lips cracked because I didn't have any lip balm or anything, but definitely AT dampness. Question two is from Larry. What type size of Ursack, and did I get another OpSack? So Ursack was my bear bag, and then the OpSack is the odor-proof bag that goes inside of it, which is kind of like a giant Ziploc. My odor-proof sack, the OP sack, failed on like 12 days in, and it was brand new when I started. So I'm not a huge fan of those things. I mean, it should last longer than that, and it didn't. So I ended up not being able to find one for a long time, and I ended up just getting a couple of turkey bags. So at the grocery store, they sell those oven bags that you bake a turkey in. And I used those instead, so I just doubled them up, 2 of them, and that seemed to work. So it's mostly to try to keep food odors away from, so rodents won't get into your food or attract bears or whatever. So yeah, I used a couple turkey bags, and that seemed to work. And then the size was just the standard, I think 10 liter. And it was the Ursack Major, which is meant for bears, but it doesn't have the Velcro to stop critters. But I just cinched it tight, and I never had a problem with any mice or anything getting into my food. So yeah. Next was William Sommers, and I deleted all the numbers off the ends of the names because I didn't want to. So William Sommers asks, how much did Maine, New Hampshire slow you down, and how much easier was the rest of the trail? So the AT, I would never use the word easy to describe any section of the AT. It's all challenging in its own way. But definitely the slowest that you go is in New Hampshire. That definitely slowed me down. I think by the time I got to that point, I was averaging about 20 miles a day. When I got to Vermont, you kind of get up into the mountains and the big up and downs again. And that kind of reduced me down to about 18 miles a day. And then for New Hampshire, it really just depended on the day. Some days were nice and cruisy, and I would do 16, 17, 18 miles. But a lot of days were more like 10 to 12 miles. So yeah, New Hampshire was difficult. And then the first couple days of Maine was very difficult as well. My shortest day not involving weather or going into town was the Mahoosic Notch, was 7 I ended up doing a 7-mile day that day, and I hiked all day to get that 7 miles in. That was a hard day. That was in Maine. But after those first 2 days, Maine isn't that bad. I think I usually averaged between 16 and 20 miles all the rest of Maine. There were some days that were shorter due to terrible weather and other factors. But yeah, for the most part, Maine wasn't too bad either. And how much easier was the rest of the trail? It was easier. It was easier, especially than New Hampshire, but not that much easier. I mean, it's a hard trail. It's a hard trail. Like, Pennsylvania has all the horrible rocks, which are just really annoying more than hard. There's good elevation gain and loss in Tennessee and North Carolina. You know, Virginia even has its ups and downs. Yeah, it's a hard trail. But I would say New Hampshire is the hardest part. Yorkie asks, did I get any deer ticks? No ticks. I never even saw one on me. So I would always hike through fields with my trekking poles out in front of me to brush the grass. And I don't know if that was the reason or if I just got lucky or maybe a combination. But yeah, I never got any deer ticks. So no Lyme disease. Richard Ashley asks, are there any other hikes you're considering? Lots of other hikes I'm considering. Don't know if I'll do another long one like this. I would definitely do like a section of the PCT or CDT. I might do one of these long ones in the future, but just not anytime in the near future. I would love to do the Colorado Trail. That's about 500 miles. I could probably get that done in about a month. And there's a couple other trails like that. The Superior Hiking Trail up in Minnesota is on my list I would love to do. And various others. But yeah, that's kind of what stands out to me right now are those. Sorry for the changing. This is a bad lighting day. There's clouds drifting in front of the sun and messing up my lighting here. Data Girl asks, are there any ways to support other than Patreon, and how often were I recognized? I mean, I do have like Venmo and PayPal, but I don't really use that for the YouTube channel. I like Patreon because it's people supporting my content, and I like to be able to talk about when things go wrong, like my transmission blowing out, which actually just happened again. So I'd gotten a used transmission, which I didn't really know when they installed it, and it already had 100,000 miles on it, 120,000 miles or something, the used transmission. So my transmission blew out again, so I got it replaced. It's a real transmission this time, a new transmission, but it was super expensive, and I'm going to be in debt and working for a while. But I want to be able to talk about these things on the channel without then people like dropping me money, because I don't want to e-bag. So I kind of like that it's like Patreon is there for people who want to support the content, but I don't want people to throw me money just because I have hard times, which, you know, everybody has hard times. It's part of life. And then how often was I recognized on trail? Only twice. There was only twice that I was recognized. Actually, really only once. I was recognized by a southbounder cowboy. That was in Massachusetts. And then when I was talking to Randy from National Parks, the channel, America's Parks, I met him on the way to Katahdin. He had seen one of my videos. He had seen the Agua Fria video, which is hilarious because that was like one of my first videos and it's terrible. And yeah, but it's funny that he saw that one. So yeah, that's pretty much it though. B. Thompson, Judy again, asks, what did I like best about the whole adventure? What did I like best? Honestly, I really just liked the walking every day. I love to hike. It's really one of my passions. And just being able to do that every day and walking through the woods every day for 5.5 months was amazing. That is my jam. That is my bag. And I loved it. So that's probably, for me, the best thing about the trail was just the daily walking in nature all day. It was great. I mean, don't get me wrong, it did wear on me at times, but it was still like, it was awesome. That was the thing for me. And she also asked, did I have any problems with sketchy types? I had, not really. There was probably 3 different times where I got to camp and there was somebody there that sketched me out and I just moved on. And I think that's the key, and it probably would have been fine each of those 3 times. It's just, that's what everybody says who gets murdered. Like, it's probably fine. So, you know what? If your instincts are telling you to get out, then just get out. And that's what I did. And so, about 3 different times. And it was always, the 2 of the 3 times, it was at shelters near roadways or towns. So that's kind of when you can get the most sketch balls, is when you're close to a road. Because then you're not getting a hiker, you're getting, who knows. But there was one hiker who was sketchy early on, and I hiked past, and then I hiked a little faster to stay ahead of him, and then he ended up getting off trail. So, So for the most part, no. Not too many problems with sketchy types. James E. Pace asks, 12 days is a big day for me. Did you get those 20 miles a day due to fitness, trail conditions, hiking from dawn till dusk, or what? Or am I too slow to survive the AT? So, first of all, yeah, I pretty much hike dawn till dusk every day. Not always till dusk, sometimes an hour before dark was my ideal. I would usually wake up with the sun, get on trail, and then, so I wasn't a particularly fast hiker. I just would hike all day to get my miles. And, definitely trail conditions helped getting 20 miles a day. Like I wasn't doing 20 miles a day in New Hampshire for the most part. And then as far as fitness goes, when I started the trail, I was 230 pounds. I started out hiking, for the first week, I was hiking probably 8 to 10 miles. Second week, I was hiking more like 11 to 13 miles. The third week, I started getting up to 15 miles. And day 30, 1 month in, I was hitting the 20-mile mark. Or I hit it the first time, and then I started hitting it pretty consistently after that. So, yeah, the fitness is something that you'll build up to. And, I was 45 years old when I started the trail, bad back, and was 230 pounds. And so, yeah, I just hiked myself into shape. And it got to the point where there's no way I would want to just do 10 miles, because then I would get to camp, because you do build up. You build up. And then if you just hike 12 miles, you're going to get to camp at like 1 in the afternoon. And then what are you doing the rest of the day? 1 or 2. So, yeah, I would just hike all day and felt good. And yeah, you build up to it. So I'm pretty sure you could. But even if you did just want to hike 12 miles a day, you could still hike the AT. You would just need to start it earlier. You would need to start it in early March or something, or maybe even late February. And lots of people do that, so that's an option. But you'll build up and you'll put in more miles as you go. What was the favorite place you ate while on trail? That is from Katie NH. Favorite place. So there was lots of good meals. You know, Woods Hole Hostel was awesome. The Mountain Harbor breakfast was great. I had a great trail magic early on in Georgia, right before Easter. It was the Easter Saturday, and they had done like an Easter Sunday brunch for us on Saturday. That was amazing. But I would say my best meal on trail is actually absolutely shocking. It was in Pennsylvania. It was in, was that Pennsylvania? That might have been New York and New Jersey, actually. It was this place called Drifter Ferments. And it was kind of more of a coffee shop and kombucha place. And she made her own like, what do you call those things? Sauerkrauts. She made her own sauerkrauts and sold them by the jar. But then she had one menu item. And it was a vegetarian item. It was a tempeh Reuben, and she made her own tempeh. And she made her own sourdough bread that it goes on. So everything was from scratch. And of course, she made her own mayonnaise. She made a pesto that went on it. And then she made her own sauerkraut. And it was amazing. It was amazing. Yeah, like that was vegetarian meals. So kind of shocking. Like I was with Free Flow, and this guy had given us a ride and was kind of giving us a tour around town and asked if any of us were vegans. And of course, Free Flow said yes. And I was like, oh no, I'm going to get stuck going to a vegan restaurant. And he said this place is Drifter Ferments, and they did their own sauerkraut and stuff. And it's like, oh, well, okay, that sounds interesting. So I'll give that a go. And it was amazing. And there was a vegan version that she got, but mine had, you know, mayonnaise, and it had the Parmesan, which is in the pesto. And most memorable meal on trail, absolutely Drifter Ferments. I think now that I'm thinking about it, it was in Warring. I think it was in Warring, which is either New Jersey or New York. But yeah, Drifter Ferments. One menu item, the tempeh Reuben, and it was amazing. Let's see. Next question, also from KDNH. What were the most surprising things about the trail? What were your favorite sections of the trail? Most surprising things about the trail? Let me think on that a minute, and I'll answer the other one first. What was my favorite sections of the trail? New Hampshire, especially the whites, are absolutely spectacular. The trail itself is terrible through there. Terrible, like it's not really trail. It's just erosion rocks that you're walking up. Yeah, it's terrible. But the scenery was absolutely amazing in New Hampshire, and it's the closest you really get to the Western Mountains. Beautiful. I loved Maine. Maine was really neat. All the lakes and stuff. You'd get up and have these rocky mountaintops and then the lakes. Also felt somewhat Western, and all the pine trees and everything. I really loved Maine. 100 Mile Wilderness was beautiful, although the river crossings I wasn't a huge fan of. And the cold rain in Maine was not ideal, but it was beautiful. As far as the Mid-Atlantic section goes, I'll break it down by sections. So for the north, yeah, New Hampshire and Maine. For the Mid-Atlantic section, New Jersey was really cool. So once you get out of Delaware Water Gap, there's some cool towns in New Jersey, some good delis and stuff. And there's like lakes you could jump into because it was hot, which was great. So there was like some swimming lakes. And you'd get up on the ridge and you'd look down on the rivers and stuff. Yeah, New Jersey was actually beautiful. I liked New Jersey quite a bit. And then as far as the south goes, Roan Highlands takes the cake for sure. It feels like you're in Scotland or Ireland or something. Roan Highlands was really cool, beautiful. And yeah, so Roan Highlands. Grayson Highlands was also cool. Smokies were awesome. Yeah, it was. Those are probably my highlights. Where was I? Nomadic Newbie asks, how much did you spend? How much hitching did I have to do to resupply? So how much did I spend? I spent a pretty good amount. I think about 5,500. And then I actually had to borrow a little bit of money to get off trails or to get back home. So all said and done, I would say close to $6,000. And I was actually really cheap about staying in hostels. I never stayed at a hotel the entire time. I would say where my biggest expense was I thought I would spend about half that. But when I got to town or got to a restaurant, I had absolutely no self-control. That's what I didn't really count on, is just how hungry I was going to be when I got to those things and how much I was not going to be able to control myself from spending money at restaurants. Yes, I spent a lot of money at restaurants. So that was kind of my biggest expense was eating. And I think that all said and done, the AT would be the most expensive trail for me, just how often you get to town and restaurants and stuff, which would not be the same on the CDT or the PCT. So the AT ended up being a bit expensive for me because of all the restaurants. So yeah, 5,000, 6,000, something like that. What is next? Oh, and how much hitching did I have to do to resupply? I had to hitch quite a bit. Now, you can get away with not hitching at all. Some people just aren't into it. And these days, you can actually get Uber, you can get Lyft. There's a lot of shuttles that run out of towns and stuff. So that's probably, you can go that route if you want. For the most part, you might have to hitch a couple times, but I didn't have any problem hitching. It usually went pretty fast, and yeah, it was fine. I never really had any sketchy incidents or anything, and yeah, hitching was fine. People pretty much know what you're doing when you're out there. Yeah. Okay. Michelle Gliding Swan, got it. Says, did you more enjoy hiking with others or solo? So several questions, but let's start with that one. Did you more enjoy hiking with others or hiking solo? I really liked both. I liked hiking with other people. It was a fun little change and different and whatnot. But it wasn't something I did all that often. I hiked by myself, even when I was hiking with Free Flow and Lone Wolf. Oftentimes they would end up hiking ahead of me all day, and then we'd meet up at camp, or meet up at break spots and things like that. But we weren't actually like hiking and talking or anything, except for maybe a couple hour here and there. And then they were faster than me, so they would go ahead. And so I didn't actually hike with people that often. I did hike with Mother Duck and Trash Man for about 10 days. So I liked those because they were like different. It was like different and fun and a good novelty. And then, but when I was completely on my own, I really enjoyed that too, because then you can totally set your schedule. If you don't feel like hiking anymore, you just stop and you don't have to worry about meeting up with people. And so I enjoyed both quite a bit. So yeah, both. And she also asked, were there scary times or was it just from the terrain? And which parts would you like to revisit? were there scary times? The scariest times actually probably were the river crossings in Maine, specifically that that one that I showed the other people crossing that looked really sketchy. That was sketchy. I was raging water up to my waist, trekking poles shaking, like that was terrifying. So probably the river crossings in Maine were the scariest times. But it was also hard from the terrain. It's a hard trail. It's a hard trail. And then which parts would you like to revisit? I would love to do the Roan Highlands again. Absolutely. Roan Highlands, probably top of the list. Just because I have kind of friends in that general area, I can get there easily, do the Roan Highlands again. I think I would really like to hike Virginia again in the fall. Fly, because it'd just be so logistically easy. You fly into DC, take the train to Harper's Ferry, and then just start heading south. And kind of go as far as you want to, and you can get back to Roanoke, or you can hike all the way down to Atlanta, or whatever. So I would definitely be interested in doing the whole state of Virginia again, pretty much. And then I would love to do Maine in better weather, but after fly season, after biting fly season. So probably like really early September or the tail end of August or something like that. I think Maine would be really awesome to do again. Yeah. Judy asks again. Lots of questions from Judy. You often speak to wanting to be away from people on shorter hikes, and yet you seem to revel in company on the AT. Can you talk about the difference? Yeah, there's a couple of huge differences. One is when I'm talking about getting away from people on day hikes. Places like the national parks, there are so many freaking people on trail. And they're going the opposite direction from you. So, a lot of the trails are in and out. And so you're just constantly passing people, having to step aside for people. And you're also not really having any interaction with those people. And if you do have an interaction, it's like, hey. So it's totally different on the AT because, one, you're all mostly going the same direction. You're heading north. And you're backpacking out there. And so you're not just doing a day hike where there's so many people on it. There's a lot less people. Even though there are a lot of people on the AT, you don't pass that many in the course of a day, except in certain sections. And so it actually is fairly isolated out there. It's nothing like going on a day hike in Yosemite or Zion or any of that. That's terrible. So yeah, you just don't have the same sort of crowds out there. And when you do meet people, you have relationships with these people because you meet them and then you pass them again, or maybe you hike with them for a little bit and then you end up staying with them. So you're forming like friendships with people, and it's totally different than going on a day hike in a busy place. So to me, that's, I would say, that the main difference is just the people that you pass a lot less people, and the people you are passing, you actually have some sort of relationship with, and it's not like this awkward social anxiety situation of somebody that you've never met before and will never see again. Mikey G asks, will you try to do other hikes with some of the hikers you met on the AT? I don't know the answer to that. Maybe. Free Flow is here in Arizona, but we're working pretty much completely opposite schedules. I would definitely be down, but I don't have a lot of contact information. I have just a couple of people. But I would definitely be down, and if I'm not great at staying in touch with people, honestly. Not one of my strong suits. But if things work out, yeah, I would love to. I would love to hike with Free Flow or Lone Wolf or Treble. There's a few others. Eclipse would be Eclipse and Baseball. Yeah, I would love to. I would love to do another trail with somebody. I don't know if it'll happen though. Again, I'm not great at staying in touch with people. Denise Hardy asks, "Are you more of a Nick Nolte or a Robert Redford?" That is in reference to A Walk in the Woods. Probably a nice little cross of the two. Jean E. Roy and Linda Castro also asked a very similar question. Wondered how much weight I was carrying. Anything you wished you had left or brought instead? My pack, my base weight before food and water was about 10 and a half, 11 pounds. There's not really anything I wish I'd had. Sometimes in bad weather, I'd wish I had more of an enclosed tent, but it wasn't that big a deal. My poncho tarp worked pretty good. And the times that I did get a little wet, I was able to get it dried out. So yeah, not really. As far as anything I'd like to bring. As far as, I would love to have my pack lighter, actually. Because even at 10 and a half, 11 pounds, when it was loaded down with food and water, I often carried too much food. I often carried too much water. I would love to just have an overall lighter pack. I think I could probably get down to an 8-pound base weight. And just by getting some lighter items, like I started off with a Nemo Tensor, which is a fairly heavy pad. I could cut weight there. I could cut weight a couple other places. But I don't think I would, I did like having my umbrella. I don't think I would take an umbrella again. That would cut off 8 ounces right there. There's probably a couple more items like that. But yeah, I would love to have more of like an 8-pound base weight. I think I could get away with an 8-pound base weight. And because the lighter your pack is, I feel like there's almost some discrimination against ultralighters out there. I think people are defensive of their own setup, whatever it is, you know. But the thing of what I don't think a lot of people think about is so many people were out there just, they loved slack packing, and which is where you don't take your pack. You just take a couple of day hike items, you know, a little day pack or whatever, or just your fanny pack, and you just hike and you leave your backpack at a hostel, and then the hostel picks you up on the other side. So it's called slack packing. And so a majority of the hikers slack pack at some point during the trail. And they talk about how great it is. Well, if you're ultralight, you have an 8-pound base weight, and it's like you're constantly slack packing. So that would be nice. And I was close enough to that to the point where I never felt the need to slack pack, but it would have been nice to be a few pounds lighter. And yes, you give up some comfort items, but I think for long distance hiking especially, it's more about being comfortable while you're hiking than about being comfortable at camp. You need to get a good night's sleep, and you need to be protected from the weather. But other than that, like, yeah, the lighter the better. Where were we? SJR asks, so you aren't going back to the beet harvest? Question mark. No, I got done with the trail. I definitely would have gone back to the beet harvest if I had gotten done in like mid-September, which actually would have been a possibility under other circumstances. But I just didn't have enough time. Last year I started the beet harvest. They had me be there, I think, on September 24th or 25th. And I didn't even get done with the trail till September 27th. and then I had to travel back and get my van, and I wanted to spend a little bit of time with my family. So yeah, the beet harvest just wasn't practical this year, so no beet harvest. Jan Green asks, what kind of work are you doing? How long will you be working, and what will you do next? I am working in Phoenix. I'm not really going to talk about that job until I'm done with it. It is a big corporate company. And yeah, but whatever, it's fine. And how long will I be working, and what will I do next? So unfortunately, I talked about earlier, my transmission blew, which was quite expensive. And on top of that, I already had a little bit of debt from getting back out west, from getting off the trail. I had to borrow from a couple friends. And then when my transmission blew, I had to borrow again from friends. And so I have quite a bit of debt to get paid off. And then once I get that debt paid off, I want to make sure that I have a way to respond to things like that. So I want to save up a bank account just to be able to respond to big major engine repairs or anything else that should happen. So I'm going to be working for a while, maybe even over a year. So it might not be fun adventure channel for a while. It might be more like city van life. But one of the nice things about the job that I'm working is they have places all over the country, and they allow you to transfer, and they're really good about it. So I can transfer to other locations once it starts getting hotter here in Arizona. So at least that'll add some variety. I'm going to get out on the weekends, and I'll film some adventures still. But yeah, I just need to get caught up financially for the next year, so I will be working away. Awesome. But hey, you know, that's a sacrifice I would gladly make again to be able to hike the AT, because that was such an awesome experience. So yeah, worth the trade. And then what will I do next? Yeah, once I get that all paid off and whatever, I'll cross that bridge when we get there. I have no idea. So I've just got my sights set on getting financially stable again, and then we'll go from there. Lewis Kimsey asks, will there be the girl on the AT song? So for those of you who don't know, I did do a song called The Girl from Santa Fe, or The Girl in Santa Fe. And yeah, there will be no girl on the AT song. I'm still pretty hung up on The Girl from Santa Fe. If you did the AT a second time, do you think it would be easier? Maybe. If I did it next year, definitely. Because I'd still have be in some amount of shape from this first time. And I think it would be easier in some ways than just the fact that I know I can do it. I've done it. And I definitely learned a lot along the way, so I think I would have a lighter pack. I think I'd have better gear. And I think all said and done, I probably would be in better shape, and I kind of know what my body can take and what it can't. And yeah, I think it would probably be easier. Uncle Terry asks, in these times when you were solo, did you miss having a trail buddy? I definitely liked having a trail buddy, and I think it was hardest when I first split up from Mother Duck and Trash Man, and then when I first split up from Free Flow and Lone Wolf. But once I was back out on my own again, it was fine. Like I say, there's pluses and minuses to hiking with people and to hiking solo, and I really enjoyed both. So Yeah, I definitely missed having my trail buddies, especially within that first week after parting from them. But I also liked being on my own as well. It was fine. It was fine either way. Buffenmeyer asks, what was your scariest episode on the AT? I talked about that earlier. That was the freaking river crossing in Maine, that last one. And I guess Free Flow and Lone Wolf had no problems with that. It was all the rain that had led up to it that made those all sketchy, but for them, it was like no big deal. The river crossings were no big deal. And they were just like a week ahead, so that was the difference. Yeah, river crossing in Maine, that was horrifying. And last question, final question. Do your joints feel better not carrying the extra weight? For sure, yeah. Like, I think people spend a lot of time worrying about how much their pack weighs, but you know, and that's important too, but that's just one, like, I was carrying 45 extra pounds of body weight, and just shedding that, it definitely made hiking easier, and it made, yeah, shedding the body weight made hiking easier, definitely easier on the joints, easier on the knees, easier on the back, all that stuff. So yeah, and I believe that's pretty much the end of my questions. So AT was an amazing experience. Loved it, loved every minute of it. I did have people ask in the comments back before about my footwear, what I was wearing on trail. I was wearing trail runners. So a lot of people start the trail in hiking boots, and almost nobody ends the trail in hiking boots. Hiking boots really aren't designed as much for through hiking. They're really more for weekend backpacking or short section hikes, but being in the same shoes every single day, through hiking ends up being much more like trail running than it is from weekend backpacking or day hiking. When you're weekend backpacking and day hiking, the negatives of hiking boots are outweighed by the positives, because they give you the extra ankle support. They have, you know, your feet aren't, they have those big, thick, heavy soles to help protect your feet, and having that extra weight on your feet, or shoes that dry so much slower, isn't that big a deal because you're only out for the day or you're only out for the weekend. But when you're out for 5.5 months, you need lightweight foot gear, because it's just going to be so much easier on you. It'll make your hiking easier. And as they say, a pound on the feet equals 5 on the back. So, and that was from a military study, apparently. I guess that was a real thing. And also, trail runners dry really quick. And they're designed to dry quick. And hiking boots take forever. So trail runners is the way to go for most people. Some people did wear hiking boots, or who maybe needed the extra ankle support, but yeah, trail runners worked for me, although I did, you know, twist my ankle. But yeah, it was fine. So that's pretty much my video. So thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Yeah, this is a long video, so sorry, but there was a lot of questions, so.